Web Platform Docs. It launched. It's a new website. How many of you have already heard about it? Okay, quite a few of you. And how many of you have actually already contributed something or created an account? Okay, so, all right, not too many. That's good. So, for those of you that haven't seen it yet, I'm going to play you this quick.
When I first started web development, there was pretty much just Netscape. All I ever had to do was open up one browser and make sure that it worked there. These days, it's not unusual for me to have about 5 different browser windows open at the same time.
A good portion of my front-end development time is spent trying to figure out how I can best build a feature, and a good portion of that is spent finding the right website where I can find out the information I need.
Right now there's a lot of great information that's out there, but it's spread across a bunch of different sites.
Oftentimes the difference between getting that information quickly and right and getting it wrong can be the difference between something taking an hour and all day.
As the web moves forward, we have different operating systems, different browsers, different devices, and not just that, the standards that we use for the web keep changing rapidly day in and day out.
And it's hard to find the documentation for what works across all of them. This is something we all need to solve together as a community for the web to be the best it can be.
The founding members of Web Platform Docs have contributed quite a bit of content to create the foundation for Web Platform Docs. It's a new community-driven site that aims to become a comprehensive source for web developer documentation. But it's also an open community, which means you can contribute by sharing your knowledge and your experience.
What we need now is a larger community to get in there and deepen the content with their own expertise.
Join in the conversation, make this website the best.
Just go to webplatform.org and sign up.
Share your expertise.
Make it exactly just what you and I need for building a web page.
Join the community and start learning and sharing today.
One of the exciting things about the webplatform.org that I find is, so I've been working on this for a while. I just 4 months ago joined Google and started working as a program manager for the Chrome developer relations team. One of the projects that was sort of pulled into not long after was the start of this web platform docs, and I've been super excited about it. In fact, if you look at the names down here, and these are sort of the, let's say, the founding stewards, and these are the people or the companies that kicked it off. It's not often that you'll find all of these companies working together. Like one of the examples was sort of HTML5 itself, right? And so here's a project, cross-vendor, not just the browsers, but companies like Facebook and Adobe. Everyone is pitching in here to create sort of the canonical reference for the web, right? For documentation of the web. So webplatform.org, as you can see here, is sort of that site. And the initial product, if you will, is a documentation set. So, for example, we have documentation at Mozilla Developer Network. We also have HTML5 Rocks. We have MSDN. All of the companies, Opera has some great work. W3C has some great articles. But all of that is not easy to edit. I mean, you can edit it. The exception would probably be MDN, where many of you probably have contributed. But this is a site where everyone can come together. So it's not just a doc site built by those companies and then kept there. It's basically these companies have literally just seeded this content and as soon as possible opened it up as an alpha release to the community. So what you see here, anything you see here is not going to be perfect. But the idea was to release it as soon as possible to the community so everyone can start pitching in, as opposed to spending another 2 years perfecting it and then having it woefully out of date. But one of the other nice things about this site and having these companies involved is that, for example, at Google, we have writers whose job it is to contribute to this site, right? And all of the companies that are listed here have people, full-time people working on this as well. So we have company efforts behind it, as well as a community, and it's in the very early alpha stage, but it's very easy to contribute, and that's what I'm going to just show you. And there's people in this room that have already contributed quite a bit. So, for example, Vanessa and Peter Moskowitz from Kazing, they edited a few articles. People from Adobe, Julie is here. There's lots of people that have already very actively contributed in this room itself. So, as you can see here, the first thing that you get to is the landing page, but really the only thing that is fleshed out at the moment is the documentation. So you see here the docs link will take you to the docs.webplatform.org, and you notice in the URL that's a wiki. So this is just a wiki. If you're familiar with Mozilla Developer Network, it's pretty much identical. It's using wiki architecture, and it's very easy to edit these pages. Now, the kinds of materials that you'll find here are, let's say, 3 high-level categories of documentation. First one is conceptual documentation. This is coming from lots of different places. Then there's reference documentation, and a large portion of the reference documentation was imported and effectively donated by Microsoft from MSDN library. So we have a huge import that we did before we launched it that effectively stubs out a lot of the web reference as a starting point, but there's still a lot of work needed. And then also another area that is there is tutorials. So let me just quickly jump to that one first. And the tutorials are listed in, so there's a landing page for tutorials, and let me just make it a little bit bigger. So you see fundamentals, topics. The main thing is tutorials often span multiple feature areas. So you may have a tutorial on combining several, let's say, HTML5 features, and it's not really just a pure reference. It's really more of an end-to-end how-to on how to work with specific technologies. So as an example, we'll take the connectivity area, and when you get in there, you'll see that there are already 3 tutorials out there. And in this case, I'll just pick one of them, the WebSocket tutorial. And you notice that this isn't a tutorial. This actually was imported from HTML5 rocks. So a lot of the documentation there has been literally just donated to seed this project. And you'll find it here. And this article is pretty much a complete tutorial that's already there, getting started with WebSocket. And that's just one simple example. Now, you'll find that a lot of the stuff on the web, there are some great sites. For example, I like using Can I Use for browser compatibility. And there's other sites that have similar things. The one problem with most of those sites is that you cannot edit that. And so the biggest difference really is like the web platform documentation with an edit button, right? That's one good way to describe it. So if I wanted to edit this document, it's very simple. In fact, it's 2 steps. One is to create an account. It's free. You just create an account the very first time you get to the site. Create an account, a username, and a password. Then you have that. So you see I'm logged in here. And as soon as you have that, you can edit. So I click on Edit. And you'll notice that all of these documents they're using wiki templates. And if you're familiar with that system, there's a whole lot of things you can do in sort of template language that is used inside the wiki. And for example, there's an author name, so you don't have to necessarily write all of this in the raw HTML, raw wiki markup. An article summary, and then here you'll see that this is the actual content. So here I see, like an area, and I can literally just go in here, edit something, and make a comment about just what I did at the bottom here, and okay, quite a bit here, and then create a little summary and save it. So now I've updated that document. So anyone can do that, and that's really the power of this. One of the things you'll find here is that, let me just go to another topic here. So here, so if I go to the documentation, the reference documentation, you'll find that there is information about lots of different areas. For example, CSS, complete reference, and you can find pages for all of the different CSS properties. For example, let's say border radius, and then those pages will have browser compatibility tables. Let me just find one. Okay, well, let me just give me 1 second. Okay, so once you're in edit mode, you can find these compatibility tables that a lot of topics have. And so here you see desktop and mobile compatibility tables. And so it's very easy to fill this out. So what we've tried to do with this site is to make it very easy for anyone to contribute. But you may only have 5 minutes, you may have half an hour, you may have a whole day, and a little bit more on the whole day in a little bit. So, for example, you may be a subject matter expert on a specific feature, and that's great. In many cases, you can't edit that information on the web, but here you can just go in and edit it. So what we're trying to say here is this is an alpha release. There's a lot of stuff wrong with it, right? There's a lot. It's not necessarily wrong. It's just very incomplete. Many things need to be added, but everyone should be able to do that. So we're hoping that the community will step in here and build this up. You know, one of the things I always say is, like, ultimately one of the ideal situations we would be in is whether if you do a search online for, let's say, that same border radius property, and this ends up higher than W3 schools. We're still a little ways off from that. But it should be that simple, right? It should be just anyone looking for web information going there and finding it. All right, so there's the browser compatibility. And one other thing I wanted to sort of point out in terms of the editing is that a lot of topics have these flags, and the whole system works with a series of flags that you can apply. So even if you say, look, I know this is wrong, but I don't know what the right thing is, you can flag things for later. So somebody can come around later in a doc sprint or during some other time that you can come back and say, okay, let me do a little bit of additional research and add it in. But you can at least flag things. For example, you may say, hey, we really need a topic on, I don't know, some property or some feature, but you don't have time to write it all, but you can still create a stub topic and, you know, go that way. So there are flags for things like missing relevant sections. There's actually a flag called needs flags. So that's the very beginning. Once the topic has the appropriate flags, then we can go through and find ways to edit those. And so let me get into how you can get started. So you notice that at the very top of the page you'll find a link that has a getting started guide, which I'm going to click on here. Okay. Now I'm going to skip right past this broken image and go right to the task. So here's a bunch of tasks that we've already outlined for people. So there's 5-minute tasks, half-hour tasks, and so on. And you notice that, for example, the correct spelling and grammar flags are turned on, or missing compatibility information. So there are lists, and these lists are auto-generated, of course, from all the topics that have that specific flag set. So it's a sort of a moving thing that will constantly be updated. So you can, what we want to do is make it very simple for people to say, okay, give me something to do for half an hour, just go here, help out a little bit. So that's sort of the system that a lot of these tasks use. Okay. Then here, so we have half-hour tasks, half-day tasks, and of course there are some lower-level things that you would need some pretty good knowledge of the wiki system for. So if you have that kind of background, then for sure become one of the admins. It's a pretty open community. We're basically just trying to say, look, let's not bitch about stuff. Let's just build something. Let's just contribute instead of whining about things not working. Okay, so there's ways to create new pages. I'm not going to go into all of that. For example, there's also a community page. So we are planning a really cool event right here in 2 weeks on a Saturday, November 3rd. In fact, just going here now, here's the draft for that meetup that I have saved. And I'm going to turn that on right now. So I'm scheduling the next meetup there, and I'm going to announce it. So you heard it here first. This has now been announced. You should have an email about this event. And this event is going to be here at Adobe. It's a whole day, the first real web platform doc sprint, if you will, if you're familiar with the Mozilla Developer Network doc sprints. It's basically a day where people get together, and you don't have to necessarily be here. We'll have a back channel running, the IRC channel that you can use to get more information. So this is just announced. One quick thing about this event is that don't just RSVP only here. This is a common problem. Like, we actually have an Eventbrite URL set up for this. Many people just click on RSVP yes, and then they come and it's like, oh, you didn't actually register. So make sure you actually register for the event on Eventbrite, which I'll show here. And so that's very simple. It's free, of course. In fact, Adobe has been kind enough to not only offer breakfast, but cater lunch. We'll have a reception with drinks at the end. So we have a whole day where we'll help you in any way possible to get up to speed and to really become productive. And hopefully then you guys can also take that information and help others to spread this a little bit wider. So I'm really excited about the event. I'll be here, of course. Vanessa is going to be here. A lot of people from the community are going to be here. Julie, everyone that has been involved with this project is going to be here and helping with that as well. So let's see here. So just to give you a real quick idea of how little it takes to, so here I have a web platform doc sprint. So I have this URL here, and I have a community events page on web platform docs. I'm going to just edit it, show you just how simple it is. And in this case, I just need to update this link to this new event that I just launched here. I'm going to just edit it here and say community event page now has this event on there, and that's going there. So I just actually edit this on the site live. It's really that simple. Clearly, it's just as simple to add browser compatibility. That's something that I think this will be a big draw for this site. I think quality reference will be really important, but more and more you want to see which browsers support things, where the gotchas are, and that's what I think this larger community can really bring to the table. So there's actually a couple of things I want to show you as well. There is a getting started. All right, so the getting started has information on how to find additional help. So there is an IRC channel. It's on freenode.org. If you go to the site and you look for that, you'll find all that information. But so this is an IRC channel that is dedicated to this. It's Web Platform, and there's another one called Web Platform. Hopefully I'm not doing something crazy here. So this is an easy way to get some help if you're online. I mean, there's actually tons of people online that are part of this project. You can see lots of stuff happening. So, so that's an easy way to get involved. There's also one called Web Platform Site that deals with a little bit more the back-end infrastructure. Then there's a mailing list, and that's public, Web Platform, w3.org, easy to get involved in, and you can send questions to the group. No one's going to bite, and it's just easy to get answers for all of the things you're working on. If you want to get started, there's plenty of people here to help you. And finally, there's a bug database. So if you have an actual issue with, let's say, these templates need to be updated, something a little bit larger than something you can do yourself, or you can't flag, then you can file a bug against the system, and these bugs are triaged fairly frequently, and trying to get the most important things done as soon as possible. So that's a little bit about the Web Platform docs, and this is all very liberally licensed. Unlike other sites where you couldn't simply copy and paste things from, you can feel free to use it in all of your blog posts, and that's no problem at all. So the licensing here, I always forget the exact licensing. Someone help me out. Is it? It's Creative Commons. Anyone remember what it is? So I'll follow up with you offline. But it's a very liberal license. In fact, you should be able to do exactly what you're talking about, right? The comment was, it would be great if you had some sort of live editing mode, and that's in fact already discussed. It's not there right now, but that's definitely on the agenda for like making this much more like, you know, we're in 2012 now. It's kind of important that we start doing these, using the stuff we're actually talking about ourselves. So I can't really comment on exactly when that might land, but that's again dependent on mostly just community. In fact, one thing I will say about the sort of the, you know, that we've been working on this for a while, and these companies that were listed there, the stewards, if you will, but it wasn't an effort to try to sort of do that behind closed doors at all. In fact, we made this effort to get it out as soon as possible, but in a reasonable alpha form so that it's not completely broken. And so I think that was successful. It was launched. We had already had over 1 million page views, and in the first day we had something like 2,400 people that signed up for an account. Something like 250 editors joined. So there's a lot of activity already, and a lot of stuff has already been improved. There's, of course, a lot more to do. But the idea was that as soon as we launched it, everything, even all the meetings and all of those things, they became like done in the public. So there's no sort of other committee somewhere behind the scenes running the show. It's literally community. So for example, we'll have regular meetings for the content, regular meetings for other things like direction. They will be publicly announced here. You can join them. We'll figure out exactly how we do it. There may be a call-in number that is announced, or an IRC channel, things like that. But that's really, it's all out in the open.